Michael Miraglia, the creator of the Strongman Marathon. This young man is so impressive. He created this marathon where it's 26 miles. Every odd mile, he's running with a vest on, a 20-pound vest on. On every even mile, he's doing different athletic events for that mile: burpee broad jump, dummy fireman carry, sled drag, flipping tires. Absolutely incredible. He's doing all of these feats. Uh, he did obstacle training for a while, then he moved to CrossFit, and now he's doing all of these. Absolutely inspiring. He talks about how he approaches them, how he discovers them, how he creates them. He has a couple of world records on deadlifts and running a mile, a couple other records. It's a great conversation. He really shows people how to make goals and reach them. Michael Miraglia, absolutely inspirational and very well disciplined. I know you're going to like this. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. I can't wait to talk to you, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, my guy Mark just hit me up and he said this would be a good chat, so why not?
Mark's a great guy, smart guy too. Very smart.
Absolutely.
How did you guys meet? We're on different sides of the country.
So I used to live in Stamford, Connecticut, and I was his trainer for about 3 years. So hit it off. I still talk to him every now and then, even though I'm in Las Vegas now. So yeah.
Very cool. So I'm in Wallingford, so
Okay.
I'm close there too. I gotta start. I want to talk about so many things, but I just got to start off with your Strongman Marathon. I mean, how did you? The video was just incredibly inspiring. I can't keep my eyes off it. I must have watched it 10 times. So how did you come up with this, and why?
Yeah. I mean, the Strongman Marathon, that like really broadened my horizon of what things could really be. And it got kicked off because like 2 months prior, I was the first and still only person to deadlift 500 pounds and instantly go into a mile and do it all under 5 minutes.
Wow.
And that feat alone got me recognition from this brand 10,000. And they were running this campaign called Feats of Strength. And they wanted me to be a part of it, and not just be a part, but be like the start of their campaign. So they asked me if I had any other ideas. And right away, I was like, I got like at least 20 ideas. So I threw them 20 ideas and they're like, what's this Strongman Marathon? And I didn't even have it like written down. I just figured it'd be like a bunch of heavy movements done for a mile. And if you get enough movements, you'll do it for 26 miles and have a full marathon of just like on an extreme level. So once we kind of hashed that out, that's where they wanted to go. They're like, okay, let's take it a step further and let's do it in this location that's like really powerful, that kind of transcends fitness even more. And we ended up in the Salt Flats in Utah right around winter time. And it was just open landscape, like hard packed salt on the ground, mountains surrounding you, 360 view. So like it was a very powerful statement. It was a very inspiring thing to do, to even get other people to like kind of think outside the box rather than your ordinary gym. So I was very happy to be a part of that and opened my mind to see what else I can do next. So from there, it's just been the next project, the next project, the next project, and still moving forward.
Now, the salt flats there, describe. I've never been to them. I mean, I see you kind of marching on there. You've got vests on, you're carrying things, but is it soft? Is it hard?
Yeah, so that was my first time ever in the salt flats. I think we first discussed about doing it like near the desert, closer to San Diego. So I was like, sweet, I love the heat. This is perfect. And then they're like, no, let's go here. And I was like, it's 30 degrees. I don't like that. I moved away from the East Coast to get out of the snow. So what it was hard packed salt, pretty much like an ice rink. That's what it like the best I can describe it as. And yeah, like 13 of those miles was me just running with a 20-pound vest. And the other 13 miles was me doing these obscure movements like a tire flip for an entire mile, a handstand walk for an entire mile, a sled carry. I carried my girlfriend for 3 of the miles with incrementing weights. So it was just hard packed salt. It was destroying my feet.
Yeah.
It was a challenge for sure.
And it was kind of, it wasn't dusty at all. It didn't seem dusty. And you started at like 6 in the morning before it actually got
Oh
light out.
my
I think it was like
god.
50 degrees,
That
right?
pitch it was pitch black, and
Yeah.
I didn't think about that because I had these markers, these black axle rods, like, on each side of me, so if I started in the center, I had a half-mile marker here, which was my running mile, and a half-mile marker here, which was my obscure miles, and the first one was the burpee broad jump, and I couldn't see the marker. So I was just doing burpee broad jumps after burpee broad jumps, trying to keep a straight line, and I didn't know where to go to. And then I had the film crew just doing serpentine patterns, trying to find the marker with their headlights. And once they finally found it, I was way off course. They shined the light on me. I was like, all right, I got to backtrack and get back to this marker. So I ended up doing a little bit more than a mile for the burpees. And it wasn't until that like third mile, that's when the sun really came up and I was able to see everything. And after that, it was just like repetitive work back and forth like clockwork.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to go visit the video. So every kind of odd first, third, fifth, you're doing a run with 20-pound vest.
Exactly.
And then on the even, you're doing, like you said, a burpee broad jump, then dummy fireman carry 120 pounds. And then later you bring that up to 150 pounds and then 200 pounds.
Yep. Yep. Every mile I wanted to make it something that I thought was going to be unique. Some of them pay homage to like what strongman competitors do, like yoke carries and
Mm.
kettlebell toss over the head. I tried to get a keg to do a kettlebell keg toss, but kegs are illegal in Utah, which I didn't know at the time. So we had to settle for a kettlebell, which was good. It was still heavy enough. Like I wouldn't have complained anymore. But yeah, it was very unique because you get done with 1 mile and you're absolutely thrashed, and you're like, all right, check. What's next? What else did I write on this list? And like you're just slowly chipping and chipping away, and the next thing you know, like 9 hours of the day are gone, and you're like, all right, well, we're almost done.
Sled push, sled drag, dummy fireman carry. I mentioned that. Tire flip. I saw you flipping those tires. DB farmer, right? The dumbbell farmer carry, of course. The toss, the lunges. My
The
goodness,
tire
Michael, that's
flip
really
was very interesting because you move 4 feet at a time. Every flip, the tire
cool.
moves 4 feet. You walk forward,
Mm.
flip it, and I got into a groove. I was like, I'm crushing this one. I'm like not breaking. I got through like 50 of them. I look back, I see my exact starting point. Like I barely moved. I'm just like,
Whoa.
oh boy, I have to do at least 1,000 of these. Oh boy. So that's when everything really starts setting in. You're like, yeah, you're not even close.
Oh man, I've done a little bit of CrossFit, but I know some that my tires that I flipped were not that big. But sometimes if you kind of flip it over and when it lands, it kind of bounces a little bit. You try to kind of catch it before it lands completely to kind of give you an extra inch and move it on. But you're doing a lot big tires, and this is in between all the miles. And at one particular point, you said, "Well, I'm actually ahead of schedule."
Yeah. Yeah, so when I wrote all this down on paper, I gave a quick look. I was like, all right, if I run like 8, 9 minute miles with the vest and like maybe this mile will take me an hour, maybe these burpees will take me like an hour. Like I try to figure out how long it would take, and my estimates were putting me about like 12 to 13 hours. So finishing at the 9 hour and 18-minute mark, I was like, how did I just get this done? Because it was interesting. Every halfway mile marker for my obscure miles, I ended up going faster on the way back. Something
Hmm.
about just being like, the hard part's already done. All I have to do is bring this piece of equipment back. Just like really lifted my spirits and was like, yeah, we have it. This is the turnaround point. So I just get getting faster and faster and faster, and I just was cranking it out. I was in a good mood the entire time. Like my spirits weren't low. Having my girlfriend, my dad there, the camera crew was pumping me up on belief. So like
Really?
I was just riding an all time high.
Yeah, you were remarkably, ungrumpy during this.
Yeah.
And you were just kind of like smiling and like, I'm getting this done. And I mean, do you think there'll be a point where others try to do it or there'll actually be a competition?
I mean, I hope someone gives it a go. I know people are going after my deadlift mile. There's been a couple of unsuccessful ones so far, but they're very close, and I'm rooting them on. I'm giving the best advice I can. I'm like giving them advice and tips of how to shave off time. So I'm always willing to help people out. I don't think it's like a standstill thing that will be 20 years from now, like the record. I think someone's going to beat
Mhm.
it. They just want to have to go for it. Not everyone wakes up and sees that and wants to go do it.
Yeah, and you said like pre-event, you had already run through this in your head 20 times. Like, how do
Yes.
you prepare for this, Michael? How do you?
I mean, I believe the training I've been doing, especially with CrossFit, has gotten me the strongest I've ever been in my entire life. I've done bodybuilding, like throughout high school and college. I've done obstacle course racing, very high mileage running and rock climbing. And it wasn't until I found CrossFit where everything kind of meshed together, where I was able to run my fastest, even if I was running like miles and miles before. I was able to lift the most. So this type of training I'm doing now, I just believes preps me for anything. If I want to run a super ridiculous fast mile, or if I want to do this marathon of obscure obscenity, I'll get it done. But I mean, not everything's a success. I've had many feats after this that I've absolutely failed, and my spirits were
Mhm.
not high, they were very low. So I think it's very important to have those moments too. You can't just ride the high the entire time. Otherwise, why are we doing this? It's just too easy. It's really important to have those times where you're like failing, not achieving what you expected to like really let those goals sit in and kind of feed your fire for further on.
And you can't prepare. I mean, you could certainly do these events. You could do, the sandbag carry, etc. But you never walked on a salt flat before. So how do you?
I never
I mean,
handstand walked on a salt black before
that's right. You
either.
hand. That's right. You had a handstand for a mile, a handstand walk. Yeah, yeah. So it's I don't know. What do you practice on mattresses or something? I mean, it's not that soft, but it's just
I mean,
wow.
that's part of my mentality, just go out guns blazing. Um, I most certainly am not a person who prepares, and prepares. Like, I'll
Mhm.
mentally prepare, but there's so many, like, obstacles that I would never taken into account. Like,
Right.
that salt flat, it was hard packed salt, but there was also sections where, like, it broke down and it kinda felt like sand on a beach, and so it made
Oh.
running even harder. Like, I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared to handstand walk on this. I thought it was gonna be very, like, easy to do, and it's just, like, sinking me in and wearing out my shoulders. But that's part of, like, my obstacle course background. Like, you're overcoming these obstacles that aren't just translating to physical obstacles, that are translating into mental barriers as well. So, like, the more you overcome, the more it's just gonna be easier to kinda adapt and change on the fly. But I'm still overcoming many obstacles. I've done a couple feats that aren't out just yet that I've I've done that I've ran into multiple problems that I just did not expect.
Wow. Wow. I was reading that you, I don't want to say hate, but the Murph gives you a lot of trouble.
I actually just had one of my best Smurfs this past year. I was out with a very good friend of mine, Eric Kinman, and we were kind of racing back and forth. Murph's definitely a hard workout. You're throwing on a 20-pound vest, you're doing high volume work, you're doing it at a very fast pace. If you want to go for a great time, you do it all unpartitioned, which means you're doing the mile run, you're doing 100 pull-ups before you even get to the 200 push-ups, before you even get to the 300 squats, and it destroys your body. It's high volume work of a repetitive movement, and it's not easy. But this past year, I grown to love it a lot more. Really competing with a close friend of mine that really brought out the best, made it very enjoyable.
I I've done it 4 or 5 times, but I mean, I'm afraid to ask. I mean, what did you do that in, Michael? What was your time
I
in
don't
the
remember the
Murph?
exact time. I could have sworn it was 32 something or 34. We did it pretty quick, and we were out in Denver with some elevation, but it was a blast. I had my twin brother join me. He did it an entire like 75 pounds worth of fireman gear, which was amazing to watch because watching him finish his last mile outside the gym, like I can only imagine what people thought. They'd just see like a fireman full suited running by himself. Like, where's he running? Where's the fire? Where's this guy going? But he's just doing a workout.
So for those listening, the Murph, he was he actually died in action, correct, in the
Mhm.
military, and he loved CrossFit. So every Memorial Day, all CrossFitters memorialize Lieutenant Colonel Murphy, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a 1 mile run. It's 100 pull-ups, like you said, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then another mile run. Now, when I do it, I'm 53 years old, Michael, and I do the mile run. I don't wear a vest, and I do the 100, 200, but I don't do them, consecutively. I do 10
Partition it out.
pull-ups,
Yep.
20 push-ups, yeah, 30 squats 20 times, yeah, and then the mile run. And even with all that breakup, my best time is, I don't know, 50 minutes, 55 minutes, something like
That's
that.
why I love CrossFit so much because it doesn't matter what level you are. You can be
That's right.
at my level and really pushing yourself, or you can be, you know, in your 60s or 70s and just break down the workout to your skill level and still work at a very high intensity, but for you. That's why I love
Yeah.
CrossFit so much. I think like more people should get into it. That's why I'm doing a lot of these feats just to like bring awareness of what you're actually capable of doing and you can bring it more to your level or skill set.
So the knock on CrossFit always has been, well, you're trying to do things so quickly that your form breaks down and people get hurt.
I don't think that's definitely a knock, but that comes more on ego. There's always
Mm,
going to be a person coming into the gym, not listening to the coach, wanting to do it their speed. And at the end of the day, if you want to get yourself hurt, you're going to get yourself hurt. You're not going to listen to anyone. I think there's very good gyms out there that really, give you the best advice. Whether you want to take it or not, at that point, it becomes on you. You don't have to step into a CrossFit gym to hurt yourself. People hurt themselves every day.
yeah, very good point. And I've always had really good coaches, and they always say, you getting hurt is not good for
Yeah.
business, so we don't want you to get hurt, so let's stretch properly. Don't lose your form. Don't focus so much on the time, finish everything. And, but then you have some that, obviously, uh, so when you, take it upon themselves and, be very competitive and try to win the warm up. You have only a couple of those. The majority know how to treat it and respect it. So you were just recently, semi recently introduced to CrossFit. Like you said, you were doing a lot of other things. And how did you get introduced into CrossFit?
So I was introduced into CrossFit from obstacle course racing. I did
That's
a
right.
lot of lifting, but never like CrossFit. And then I figured I can do, 2 or 3 times a week just to help my CrossFit game or to help my obstacle course racing.
Mm.
And then slowly but surely, I just started picking up more and more CrossFit because it was just more and more enticing, throwing all these new movements at me, all these new gymnastic movements that I've never done, all these Olympic weightlift movements I have never done. Um, of course, I treated it with respect. Like I just wasn't trying to load up being the heaviest person in the gym. My form was awful. I remember looking back at my cleans and my snatches, they were just horrendous to look at. And the
Mm.
growth that occurred just over 3 or 4 years, it's as long as you treat it with respect and like the way it should be, awesome. It's just another thing to learn.
Yeah, those snatches. You got to keep that bar
Yeah.
close. You got to keep it close. You know, people try to go way out with it, and you got to keep it very, very close. Yeah, and form is everything. Form is absolutely everything. I'm looking at some of your PRs. I don't know if I don't know if this is up to dated or anything, but this is your personal record. A PR is a personal record. Deadlift 550.
Just north of that now, just shy of 6, like 580 something.
So a deadlift, do you do alternate grip? Do you do
I do
full?
alternate grip. It's just the way I've been doing it. I mean, I could hook grip it, but at like past 405, it just starts to really hurt. So I'll always reverse grip. But the thing with my deadlifts, which is very unique, I hardly set up. I don't wear belts, and that's it. Just reverse grip.
And any of the forearm bands? Any of the?
Nope.
How about chalk?
I'll do chalk. So what was interesting when I did the deadlift mile, it was very
Right.
important not to waste time setting up because the clock starts before you even touch the bar. It's 3, 2, 1.
Uh,
Get your hands on the bar. You better be a quick setup because you don't want to waste any time. Because if you're wasting time setting up, you got to run that mile even faster.
you got to you got to keep your butt down. You keep your butt. Even when we're talking about this, I find myself getting my back up. It's just trying to keep form, and I'm not even doing it. Deadlift is all legs and technique,
It's
right?
all legs. I mean, that's one of my prowess. That's if I was good at any lifts, it's probably a deadlift. Any type of hinge movement, that's where I kind of accelerate.
So then you go right into the directly into the 1 mile run. So you don't have to wear CrossFit. What kind of sneakers are you wearing at that point? You wearing running shoes or
I wore
CrossFit?
track spikes, believe it or not. I knew they were
Really?
gonna shave some time off the mile. The only downside is you also have to deadlift in them, and they lift your
Mm.
toes up because of the spikes.
Yes.
So it was a very awkward deadlift. So not only was it very close to my PR at the time, it was also a PR in track spikes.
I can't even imagine trying to do a deadlift in track spikes. Wow. So you mentioned in the video that you do this, you're surrounded by great people, supportive people, but you're trying to encourage people to, make some goals that may seem unrealistic, work for them and get to them. It's really remarkable what you try to encourage when doing all of this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like once I got done with the Strongman Marathon and I was trying to figure out what was next, I was just coming up with all
Mm,
these different things. And like, if it wasn't for that first, goal, I wouldn't have the next. And you got to really understand is it's never an ending road. Once you have one goal and it's done, you're always on to the next one and the next one. And next thing
right.
you know, you're this superhuman that's just knocking things over because what you thought was impossible at first now just became possible. And it just led the way to 10 new things and opportunities that you had no idea was even going to be realistic. And it's just crazy, like this process that, I mean, there's so much our body's capable of. There's so much our mind's actually capable of doing, even though we tell ourselves no. Like there's all these barriers that we can overcome.
And when you reach one of your goals, one of your PRs, when you do this, do you celebrate? How do you kind of rejoice in your victory?
it's it feels like a quick flame. You get that
Mm,
instant like gratification, like all that work that just led up to it. Whether you get emotional and teary eye is one thing, But as the day goes on, I find myself already searching for the next.
Wow.
Because as good as it feels to get to that point, it feels even better just building to that point. So getting to the next goal and building up to that, I mean, that's part of the enjoyment is that process of building. Getting to that end spot and getting that rejoice and reward is very nice, but I think the journey towards it is even more gratifying.
Hmm. Hmm. That's interesting. So you don't really celebrate. You kind of enjoy the moment, and then you're thinking about the next challenge. Very interesting.
Cuz again, like I said, like these specific challenges, people can build it and break them. You know, they're not
Mhm.
meant to be standalone, they're meant to be broken because that's, like, the whole process of getting people out there and trying new things. So, it's coming up with the next one, and that's
Mm.
where my love for fitness, because 'cause I've said before, it is my creative outlet. I get to be creative in these things. I get to do things that haven't ever been done, try to figure out what that is, and then work to get it done.
Your approach to these kinds of things, to CrossFit, to the Strongman Marathon, is it more art or science? You just mentioned kind of your creative outlet, fitness is. How do you rank that?
It's more of an art than anything else. I do
Really?
have, an exercise science background, I do have my degree, but, like, at the end of the day, there's so much that we don't know and don't understand about the body that I'm not gonna spend too much time, like, researching, doing all these things. I'd rather be more artistic and pave my own path because everyone has their own philosophy of training. Everyone in their
Mhm.
right sense aren't wrong, they're just different. And I wanna be my own way of doing things.
Well, I was asking you about your diet, and you said there's more sweets than one would expect.
Yeah. I definitely don't have a normal diet. I don't track my macros, I don't do any calorie counting. I eat predominantly when I'm hungry, and, it's just more in behaviors. I know what's good for me, I know what's not, even though if I'm gonna have sweets or a a milkshake from somewhere, it's not, like, in a excess, it's not all the time. But one thing I do have a lot, one of the main sponsors that I have that really supports me through everything is Vital Proteins, and I love because 'cause they're predominantly collagen based. I remember back in college, I was having all these, like, whey protein isolates and this and that, and it was just terrible
Mm,
for my gut. Never really absorbed any of the protein regardless, but with collagen, I do know no matter how good your whole food diet is, you'll never be able to get enough collagen that you'll actually need. So, taking supplements of collagen is actually something most people should be looking for just for healthy joints, skin, hair. Um, and just because of that, I'll probably have anywhere from 70 to 120 grams a day. If it is too much, I'll probably end up peeing it out anyways. But if my body needs it, it'll take it in, and I definitely feel more recovered and able to withstand all my workouts that I need. But other than
uh,
that, I mean, that's as consistent as my diet gets. Coffee in the morning, a bunch of scoops of collagen, and after that, it can be whatever.
How do you know when you've had too much collagen?
I mean, your body will just naturally filter it out. Like you won't be able to see it. It'll just your body just does it naturally. Whether I know it's too much,
And
I honestly don't.
you don't. I see. And you eat meat.
Yep, not too much. I do make a lot of ground turkey for tacos and stuff like that. So I'll usually have turkey or chicken over red meats or steak. But whenever there's like a good wagyu steak on sale somewhere, I'm definitely gonna pick that up.
Sounds like you're kind of using the 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the time you're eating great, and then 20 you kind of float off and do what you want. Is that accurate, you think?
For the most part, I mean, I never really had to pay attention, especially when I was doing a lot of running. Like I would just burn it off anyways. I really couldn't consume enough calories to sustain myself. And now that my running's dropped off, I'm definitely a lot heavier, a lot stronger.
Mm.
Um, but I do notice I start have to look what I'm eating a little bit more now. But as soon as the running picks up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the running will do it, won't it? And so now you're in you originally Connecticut, then you were in San Diego, and now you're in Vegas.
Yeah, wild
Why in
ride.
Vegas? Yeah.
My girlfriend lives in Vegas. We just got a house together. Absolutely love it here. The weather's great. It's
Mm.
been like 90 plus every single day. Absolutely love the warm weather. And yeah, definitely not looking back.
Very, very interesting because you in the videos you talked about how you love San Diego and it looked great, but obviously you're there in Vegas where it's dry and hot. Yeah, that's attractive.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's not for everybody, but I'm definitely liking this lifestyle.
I also read that you have a kind of mindset that you embrace better than yesterday.
Yeah, that's the slogan for 10,000. It's one of the other companies that first picked me up. And better than yesterday, it's just a motto that kind of really sticks to me because no matter what, I always feel like I'm improving in some capacity, whether it is my fitness, whether it is some part of my mental aspect, whether it's more of like my personal life, some aspect is always getting better and striving for more each and every day. And whatever you're improving on, as long as your goals align up with that, like that's the most you can ever ask for.
Hmm. Have you ever competed in the CrossFit Games?
I never have competed in the CrossFit Games. I felt really drawn to going to the Dubai Sanctionals. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. They had an online qualifier. I did absolutely amazing in the first workout, which was like an AMRAP of calories on the rower and kettlebell swings. I was like, I got this. And then the next two workouts, I absolutely bombed, realized I could not compete with these people. They are way out of my league. And kind of
Really?
that's where the road of my CrossFit career ended.
AMRAP, for those listening, is as many reps as possible. So what you're doing now is not actual CrossFit?
That's correct. Now I am using my creative side to make these new feats that are attractive, that are just
Hmm.
something different and done in these very unique places. So one that I have coming up that is already filmed, just finishing up some editing now, is a very death-defying rope climb. I went out into the Moab desert at to one of the largest natural arches, hung a gym rope down from the center to the base, and attempted the climb from the bottom to the top of the rock without a safety line.
Oh my goodness.
And it was around a 200-foot arch.
Wow. Wow. I saw you in one of your TikTok videos do a rope climb. You just go right up those things, man. But I mean, I'm sure you're wrapping it. I mean, 200. You got to get your foot under there. You got to get stable. You got to
Let's just
incrementally
say
go.
that's the most ever I've ever been unprepared for a feat because there's
Oh
so
my
many things that happened that I did not expect. A 200-foot rope versus a 15-foot CrossFit rope that you'll find in any gym,
right.
wildly different.
Ah,
A 15-foot CrossFit rope, I could jump up, grab, get my feet close, and then touch the top. It takes two
yeah.
pulls. On every two pulls on a 200-foot rope, it stretches. So I lost about 6 feet. So I would only climb 9 feet versus the 15. And what I originally thought, I was like, all right, if I can climb this rope up and down, 20 or 25 times, I should be good. That was not the case. And also with a 200-foot rope, it spins very violently. So when you're looking at the top at your anchor point and you're spinning in circles, you get very, very dizzy.
oh my
So
god.
there was a lot of things I was not prepared for.
Was there wind involved?
Oh, it was probably the most windiest day possible. We went out the day before to check out the rigging. calm, very nice. I was like, "This is good." Came back the next day, wind was just blowing me around. I was, like, even losing my footing on the ground. I was like, "Dang." Like, none of these things I thought of.
So when does this like debut? When do people see it?
Um, so we captured about, like, 5 hours worth of footage. We're condensing it into, like, a 35-minute kind of thing for YouTube, and hopefully it'll be out at some point next month. But it is a very spectacular one, like, scenic view of just this massive arch where you see a rope that there should no by means be a rope there. So in that self, it's just like a spectacle. And then you see someone trying to climb this thing. Yeah, it was wild.
It's incredible,
But
incredible.
that's the thing.
Did
You
you
you do these feats and they bring you to the next one, which I never would have thought of. And then that brought me to the next one. I'm trying to set something up in the beginning of next year with 7 other athletes. I reserved a railroad, and we're going to be the first 8 group to take a hand cart with those old school pump carts
Yeah.
on the railroad and rack up as many miles as possible in a 24-hour time period.
Wow.
And none of us have ever touched a hand cart, so we don't know what it's going to feel like.
I wanted to follow up with the other question. Well, how you said that in the CrossFit games, these people were so much better than you. I mean, who are your contemporaries? Who will you pick for those other seven for this kind of feat?
So it's funny because I remember I thought of this feat and I was like, this is awesome. I need a team to do it with. And I thought I was going to have a very hard time finding people. So I go to my athletes from the Vital Proteins team, the 10,000 team, and I just put out my feelers. I was like, hey, does anyone want to be involved in this project I got going on? Everyone said yes. Literally
Wow.
everybody said yes. I was like, awesome. Now I get to handpick like and make a team, and we got an awesome group of guys that I could not be more excited to get this off the ground with. And that we're I really want to showcase this the way it should be. YouTube just won't do it justice. We're gonna try to make it a full scale documentary, have it available on Amazon. So it's gonna be like a nice 90-minute, 2 hour thing of telling everyone's story because every athlete involved works out differently. Not
Mm,
everyone does the same thing. Some are like more on the bodybuilding side, some are more on the CrossFit side, some are, ultra endurance runners, some are military kind of people. So everyone does fitness differently. But the one common theme is we're all coming together for this one feat that no one's ever touched before. So it's going to be
mm.
very interesting to see how all we react to it.
I quickly want to say rowing, but rowing's you're sitting and you're pulling. Whereas seems like you're kind of standing and moving it upside down. I don't even know what to like in that experience.
Yeah, it's like a maybe like a skier. I honestly like because
Uh,
there could be so much momentum where maybe it's really easy, or maybe it's barely moving and each push like really requires a lot. I have no idea.
mm,
I have no idea. All I know is I contacted the railroad and they were like they do derbies for this. But the derbies are like 100-meter sprints. And I told them I wanted to do 24 hours. They're like, What? No one does that." I was like, "I know no one does it. I wanna do it."
absolutely inspiring. And Michael, what keeps you motivated? I know you probably get asked that a lot, but what keeps you going? It's incredible.
Pure enjoyment. I mean, this
Yeah.
is what I wanna do for as long as possible. Like, fitness is my space to meditate, my space to do whatever I want. Like, there's no rules clearly because you can do anything, and it's it's just pure enjoyment for me. I get to make these things that shouldn't be possible and show people that they are. And even if it's just a day-to-day training, like, it's still leading up to something much bigger than what it is. And I think that's the main takeaway that people have to realize. Like, no matter how sometimes it might feel monotonous or boring, or what is this leading to? Like, as long as you have that end picture in your head, that's why I run through those simulations in my head, like me visualizing climbing that rope a million times, me crossing the finish line of the Strongman Marathon a million times before it even happens. Like, I
Hmm.
go into every workout thinking about that, knowing like this is the end result. This is what I'm trying to achieve.
Inspiring, Michael. I mean, just imagine if so many people, even here in our country, can use your example and better themselves with the obesity. I was going to say pandemic, with the obesity problem the way it is, and people just, on polar sides of so many things. If we can just kind of see how somebody like yourself can make these challenges and reach them in the purpose with the purpose of others to show them that you can do this too. I mean, it's so inspiring, Michael. I applaud you, and I wish you continued success. Michael Miraglia, thank you so much for your time today. This
Thank
was
you.
so great.
Thank you so much
This
for
was
having
so
me and telling more and more of my side of the story.
Yeah, and maybe even eventually when I'm in Vegas, we get together and have a face to face. I'd love to do that too. But Michael, thank you so much. I wish you continued success. I can't wait to see what's in store. The rope, the train. I mean, keep it going, brother. Michael, thank you so much for your time. You be well.
Thank you. Likewise.
I really appreciate it. Take care. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider 5, 10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.